But here we are. Thank you for being patient for a few minutes. Thank you for tuning in. And I am ready to answer your questions. Also, I'm holding this with my hand because, again, I'm not prepared. I thought I was going to be doing this on my laptop. So if you see the camera going to different places, don't worry. It's just me. My arm might get tired. So let me see if I can get it set up here. How does that work? Give me a thumbs up if that's good, if you guys can see me and everything. All right, so my name is Yolanda Acree. I am the founder of Black Minimalists. Also have my personal website, yolandavacree.com, where I talk about minimalism. So before we get into this live chat, we got lots of great questions that I'm going to answer tonight, but I just wanted to sort of talk a little bit about minimalism generally and talk about Black minimalists and why it exists. So what is a minimalist? A minimalist is a person who has decided to live with less. That could mean less stuff. That could mean less toxic relationships, less mental clutter. It could mean living a healthier lifestyle. It just means that you're deciding to simplify your lifestyle for the benefit of yourself, basically. It could also mean going debt free, or at least eliminating your debt as much as possible. It's someone who understands that they own things and that things don't own them. And it's also a person who decides that their worth and their success is not defined by material things. So that is what a minimalist is in a nutshell. And I'm going to address this question a little bit later on, but I've had at least one question asking, like, what does minimalism look like, or what does a minimalist look like? And the answer to that is it depends, because minimalism is something that you define for yourself. You get to decide what the right amount of things are for you. And no one else can tell you how to be minimalist. It's up to you to decide what is simple enough for you. So I just wanted to get that out of the way so everybody's clear on what a minimalist is and what this journey is all about. It's also another thing I want to add too. It's also about getting rid of things and our attachment to things that aren't good for us so that we can fully experience life and focus on the quality of our lives instead of just the quantity of things that we possess. So I wanted to add that in there also. I'm going to take a drink of water. Lord, I'm going to be talking a lot tonight. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to address is why Black minimalists? Why do we have this community? Why even call ourselves Black minimalists? So I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal journey here, because that will sort of lead us to how we got to Black minimalists, the community. So I started living minimally at the end of 2012. At that time, I didn't know that that's what I was doing. I didn't know that there was this term called minimalist. I don't think I'd ever encountered it before. All I knew is that at that time, I wasn't really happy with my life. And for me, whenever I sort of need to figure stuff out, I like to get rid of stuff. But this time, instead of just doing a little purge and going through my things, I got rid of a lot bigger things. So I decided to move back home with my mom. I got rid of my apartment. I I eventually put in my notice at work, so I got rid of my job, my full-time job, and I decided at that point I would never work full-time for anyone else again, and I haven't since then. Of course, I got rid of a lot of stuff in the process of going from a full apartment to just a bedroom. I had to get rid of a lot of stuff. So I got rid of a lot of stuff also. And then I also just took some time to like really consider and think about what I wanted for my life and start working on those things. So I wanted to travel more. So one of the things I did soon after leaving my job is I went to Mexico for 3 weeks with just a backpack. That was my first experience living like really minimally. I went by myself, I had a backpack, and I went all over central and southern Mexico. And like that is one of like the best experiences of my life. Like I recommend to anyone, but especially women, if you want to know who you are, what you're about, go on a trip by yourself, take a backpack, and see what comes up for you, because you will learn a lot. You will learn a lot, and you will be put in situations that's going to test, who you think you are. And when you come out of it, you'll be much closer to the real person that you are. So, okay, fast forward, I left with my full-time job. I moved back home with my mom. I don't have any stuff. Everything that I own basically fits into this little bedroom that I have in my mom's apartment. And I have my car. That's all that I own. And I just kept, getting rid of things here and there, here and there. And then I decided I started blogging, but I just wasn't feeling like what I was blogging about. So I took a break, and I would say this would be towards the end of 2014. I was following someone named Minimalist Beauty. Some of you may have heard of her. Her name is Dawn, and she runs a beauty blog all about basically simplifying her life. And she talked about how, she got rid of all this debt, thousands of dollars of debt, and how she basically just has been simplifying everything in her life. But she talked about beauty a lot, like going cruelty-free and all those types of things. So that was my first introduction to the term minimalist. So then I wanted to know more about what this term really meant. So of course I went to Google and I started searching. So the minimalists came up, and I think Zen habits were the first two that I encountered, and where I sort of got my introduction to what minimalism was as sort of a lifestyle. So once I stumbled onto their blogs and started reading more, I realized that I was in fact a minimalist, that I had been living minimally for a couple of years now. And I felt like it was something that was going to be even more life-changing than it already had been. So I decided to change the topic of my blog to minimalism, and I started blogging about my minimalist journey and everything that I learned along the way. So that was all going good and great. And I joined some like minimalist groups on Facebook, and I found like Courtney Carver. She does Project 333, and she has her own blog. I forget the name of it though. Joshua Becker. I found all these other minimalists, but the thing that kept coming back to my mind is, where are the Black people? Do Black people know about this? Do they care about this? Do they exist? Do Black minimalists exist? So I started digging, and I will say Zen Habits by Leo Babauta, he is a person of color, but he doesn't talk about that on his blog. He just talks about, ways to live simply through his Zen habits. But yeah, so I would, read the articles and things, be in these Facebook groups, and I'm always wondering, like, where are the Black folks at? So I started digging, and it started out very slow. Like, I would find one person here, one person there. And as I would find them, I would just keep making a list on Facebook, bloggers, Wherever I found these people, I make a list of them. And then I guess it was the fall of 2015, I decided, okay, I found quite a few Black minimalists. Like, let's have a conversation. Let's figure out how they ended up to this point where minimalism was something that they felt was right for their lives. So my first post was Black minimalists are on the web. And I would say half and half YouTubers and bloggers. So I featured them, and then I decided to start interviewing them just to find out about their journeys. So that was sort of the inception of Black Minimalists. It started out as a blog series on my website of interviews and just roundup posts where I would feature all the Black minimalists that I had found around the internet. But in, I guess, early 2016 is when I was sort of realizing that, we as a community, even though we were a community then, but it was still sort of touch and go, but I felt like this could be something bigger. And I started thinking about, making a dedicated space for Black minimalists to come and share our journeys, because another thing that I noticed between those mainstream white bloggers and the Black minimalists that I found is that our journeys are different. Not only because of our different race and our cultures, but also like socioeconomically, there were differences. Like, they were people who were very well off, who basically left their corporate jobs. They got severance packages, or, they had assets and things that they could sell to provide money to them to go basically be free and say, no, I'm not going to work for anybody else. Yes, I'm going to build this, site and do a tour and create a documentary and do all the things that they have done, which are great. I'm glad that they did those things. But every time I would talk to a Black minimalist, the one thing we would always share about is that this isn't necessarily our journey. And, how do we make minimalism work for us? How do we free ourselves when we don't have the same privileges as these white bloggers, basically? And that's a question that I'll probably touch on again a little bit later. But that's basically the inception of Black Minimalists. Over the past year, I've been working to find, a team of people to help me bring this forth and birth Black Minimalists. And finally, on last Monday, May 1st, we launched, and the space is officially open. Black Minimalists is a safe space for Black people who want to live a simple life, who either want to live a simple life or are already living a simple life. It's a space for us to come, share our stories, and share resources. And our purpose as Black Minimalists, the organization, is to connect our community and provide anyone who's seeking to live this life through the Black experience, the Black cultural experience, giving you resources of people that you can relate to, because representation, it matters. So that was sort of my intro. Now I'm going to sort of start jumping into your questions after I take another drink of water. All right, so let me see. Okay, so this is the first question that we got, and this is from Darren Jacobs. I know Darren, we went to college together, and we have mutual friends, and he asks, is owning a home bad for minimalists? He says, throughout college and 6 years after I only traveled with clothes, a futon, some books, and a plant. Basically, whatever fit in his car. He says, I want to get back to that as soon as I get rid of my house. So he kind of answered his own question. I'm not going to say that owning a home is bad for minimalists in general, but I think for him particularly, it may be bad for him. Minimalism is all about what works for you. And for some people, that is going to be owning a home where you can have your family and your friends, where you can entertain and build those relationships. That may be the right thing for you. It's not going to be the right thing for everybody else. I think owning a home depends on a lot of things. It depends on your financial situation. It depends on if you're planning to stay in this area for a long time and sort of what the dynamics of property ownership in that area entails. And it depends on what your lifelong goals are. If you want to travel the world for the rest of your life, you may not need a home. You may not want a home. On the other hand, I do know of a blogger, Maya the Explorer. She travels the world. She's living in Southeast Asia right now, but she does own a home too that she rents out and makes an income from. So it really all depends. And you're going to find that as I answer these questions, I'm going to say it depends a lot. For every situation, depending on what your goals are. But I think for Darren in this case, he sounds like owning a home is not the right thing for him right now. And he wants to be free. I don't know any more specifics about Darren, so I can't give him any more advice. But I can imagine if he does sell his home and decides to do some other things, that cash that he'll get from selling his home can help him do a lot of other things and maybe achieve some of the goals that he has in living more simply and traveling. All right, so that's the first question. Let me find the other questions. All right, so V.A. Thomas asks, she has 3 questions here. What does minimalism look like? Tips for knowing when to purge, and discussion for minimalism living, purchases, overall lifestyle. Let me start with the first one. What does minimalism look like? And I'm going to say the same thing I just said about 2 minutes ago. For every single person, minimalism looks different. I think there is this trendy idea of the minimalist aesthetic that it's black and white, very sparse, lots of white space or negative space, very clean and neat. That is just one vision of minimalism. For everybody, it's going to look different. There are such things as cozy minimalists, people who like to have things in their home. And that's just from a purely physical aspect of what does minimalism look like. From a spiritual or physical as in your body, mental, economic perspective, it's going to look different for every person. So if your goal is to pay down your debt, you may be living very simply with the bare necessities that you need in order to put all the extra money you have towards paying down that debt. So that may mean that you live in a small apartment or a small home. It may mean that you live with family or friends or have a roommate. It may mean that you don't go out with your friends all the time. That's what it could look like for you. In that instance, but it's different for every single person. And the beauty of minimalism, and I think sometimes the frustration of it is that I cannot tell you, no one can tell you what minimalism is supposed to look like for you. You have to decide. Number 2. Tips for knowing when to purge. When you get tired of looking at your shit. I mean, that's when I like to purge, but it can be seasonally. If your stuff keeps getting in your way, it's probably time to purge. If you look over at that pile of stuff and you get frustrated or stressed out, it's probably time to purge. If you open up your closet door and stuff is bulging out, it might be time to purge. If you open up your refrigerator and you have tons of food, or you're blocking out the light in the refrigerator, or you have food that's moldy or old or expired, it might be time to purge. It's an internal thing, I think. Internal and external. You have to be aware of the space that you're living in. But as a general aside, general advice for when to purge, I like to do it seasonally. Particularly in the winter, like around New Year's time. I also like to do it in the springtime. And I also might do it in the summer, like once I'm done with work and I'm off for the summer. You know, I generally like to go through the things that I have because I have time. But I also just purge whenever. But yeah, if you need a guideline, I would say do it seasonally. Discussion for minimalism, minimalist living, purchases, overall lifestyle. That's not really a question, but I feel like I'm answering it as I'm talking about it. So just stay tuned. Okay, the next question comes from Clarence, aka Franco. I also went to college with him. He asks, let's see, hold on. Packing for travel. I take weekend trips in the region a lot. I would love to get down to a backpack or small duffel. Suggestions. So, let me just put a disclaimer out here. I know Franco, Clarence, sorry, I don't know what you want me to call you, but I met you as Franco. He is a tall guy. He's well over 6 feet. He's thick, muscles. So, as I'm giving this advice, I just want to keep in mind that if you're of a different body type, your clothes are going to have more fabric and take up more room, just as an aside. But I do think it's definitely possible for anyone to travel with a backpack because I have done it plenty of times. I went to my first international trip to Cuba for a month with a roller duffel bag that was small. As I said, I went to Mexico for 3 weeks with a backpack, and this past summer I went to Philippines for a month with just a backpack. First of all, you have to be willing to wear the same things repeatedly. So that's the first thing. You want to take clothes that are sort of interchangeable or that can be worn multiple ways. So at least it doesn't look like you're wearing the same thing all the time. I would say for a weekend trip, I would take no more than 2 pairs of pants. So I would wear one pair and then I would take another pair as a backup. To change, and I think that's plenty. And also roll your clothes and or get packing cubes. So 2 pairs of pants, wearing one, and then a few shirts that can be worn with those bottoms. Make sure all your toiletries and stuff are packed in a packing cube if nothing else is. Roll those underwear up, roll those socks up, and don't take anything that you absolutely do not need. That's my advice. I'm trying to think of some other things. for packing. But yeah, when you're traveling and you want to travel light, don't worry about necessarily having every single piece of clothing that you might need in case of. Worry about the experience that you're going to have and the fun that you're going to have to where, wherever you're going. That's more important to me than what you're packing. And I realize, people like to be stylish. I do too. So what I'm saying might not sound as glamorous, but I feel like as you're purging just in your regular closet and you keep getting rid of stuff, your style will emerge and you will be able to take the few items of clothing that you have and mix them and match them and interchange them in ways that it will work for you eventually. But yeah, it's definitely possible just to go with a backpack. I don't know what he's doing on his weekend trips that may, require additional gear. Like, for example, if he's going hiking and he needs hiking shoes or something. Or if you're going out and there's a dress code at the nightclub. Like, I don't know what to tell you in that situation. If you're having to dress for multiple, events. And maybe someone who's watching, if you have any tips for how to pack light when you are dressing for multiple events, please leave them in the comments for those that are watching. For me, my one thing, and this is probably will apply to women more so than men, but I wear skinny jeans. I have a dark blue pair and a dark black pair. And I wear them to everything. I can dress them up or dress them down. So that's the type of things that you want to think about when you are going out to buy clothes. Like how many different ways can I wear this? Can I transition this from day to night, from a casual to a fancy event? If I just change my shirt, or if I put a blazer on, or if I change my shoes or my accessories. Accessories are a great way to still have style without necessarily having to pack additional clothes. Accessories tend to be small, so they're easier to pack. So that's also a tip for still being stylish, even when you're packing light, is to think about accessories. Okay. Here's another question. He says, I'm one of those, I might need this insert article of clothing at some point in the future people. As a result, I have mad t-shirts, etc. Is there a fix? Yes. Get rid of it. First, start with the old things. Well, put your stuff into a pile, I would say. Put your really old things into one pile and put your newer things into another pile. Go through both piles and pick out the things that you love. Pick out the things that you love from both and then get rid of the rest. Like if you have t-shirts that are ratty, torn, holes in them, unless you absolutely love that t-shirt, I would say get rid of it. Travis has a suggestion. He says, wear your sleepwear and gym clothing on the plane. Pack on a pair of jeans and khakis. Change your shoes and shirt. It's a new outfit. Yep, there you go. Especially for guys. This is definitely, because I'm a female dresser, so it's a little different, but that's definitely a great thing. And when I travel, on a plane, I always wear my bulkiest items on my body to keep my backpack light. So yeah, you gotta let go. You gotta let go. If you got 20, 30 t-shirts, you just gotta let it go. I don't know what else to tell you. Look at them, feel them, examine them, take a picture of it if you need to. Remember the memories associated with that t-shirt, if there are any. If there aren't any memories associated with the t-shirt, if you have no feelings about this t-shirt, get rid of it. And that goes the same for everything that you have multiples of. Usually they say with styling, hold on. Usually they say don't have multiples of things or have only a few multiples. So I would say no more than 2 or 3 of a same or similar item. But yeah, you just gotta let go. All right, so there's some questions in the comments. Let me see if I can scroll back up. And yes, Travis, you can get rid of your over 100 t-shirts. If you need some help, I will drop in on you. Because I'm going to question you. And that's another thing. You have to question yourself. Like, we're mature. We're conscious human beings. You can do this. You've got to go through each thing and you've got to ask yourself, does this add value to my life? Do I really need this? What benefit is this serving? Why do I still have this? You need to ask yourself these questions for every single thing. Like, even when I go to Dollar Tree, everything's $1. Yes, I understand that. But because everything's $1, I tend to want to buy a lot of things and think, oh, I'm still only spending $5 or $10 because everything costs $1. But in reality, I don't need those 10 things, even if they are $1 each. So even in Dollar Tree, I am in the aisle, and this happens mostly like in the stationery paper pens aisle and the snack aisle is the places where I tend to get caught up on things. And I will stand there legit for 5 or 10 minutes going back and forth with myself. It's like I got one, like an angel on this shoulder, like the minimalist angel and the maximalist angel. And we go back and forth about whether or not I need this item right now in this moment. And I have to rationalize it. I won't lie to you and say that it's easy for me to walk into a store and just get what I need, because I still have tendencies to want things that I don't need. And that's something, I don't know, unless you become enlightened to the point where you're like Buddha, you're always going to run into things that trip you up, and you really have to question yourself about does this thing really add value to my life? All right, let me go back up to a question that Travis asks. What do you think draws people to minimalism? That's a good question. I think I can speak for myself. What drew me to minimalism was just being extremely dissatisfied with my life and knowing that I could achieve more if I changed my life. And I couldn't get clear about what specifically I wanted to achieve until I removed all the distractions. I think that we all come to a point in our different journeys where we know that life isn't working out. We may be going along with the routines, and we may appear happy or satisfied, but deep down somewhere within you, you know that you're not living the life that you want or the best life that you could. And you just get to a point where you can't take it anymore. And you're willing to say, what do I need to do to change? And I think that point comes at different times for different people and for different reasons. Maybe, you have a close friend or family member pass away, and you think about their life and all the things that they didn't get to do because they were so attached to stuff that didn't matter. And again, that could be relationships, debt, stuff, material things. It could be a whole host of things, eating unhealthy. That is something that can push people into minimalism. If you are in serious debt, or if you have a dream of traveling the world, but it's going to be difficult to do that with all the debt that you have, or with some of the attachments that you have, when you decide that you are willing to, when you have the courage to sort of start going after the life that you want, that could be a point that pushes someone towards minimalism. I think that minimalism and simple living, I think it's in our cultural ancestry, our cultural heritage. And I'm speaking globally, not just about Black people and our heritage, but once upon a time, all societies lived very simply. They didn't create a lot of waste. They lived off the earth. They were content with being with their family and friends, and that was their source of entertainment. There are points throughout all of history, human history, where we have lived simply. I think it's something that's deep within us. Over time, as we have come more technologically advanced, we have tended to accumulate more things along the way, which I think is how we got to the point we are today. But I definitely think it's possible for everyone to get back to that point and focus on the things that are most important. And it's not, it affects a lot of things. It's our environment. How our society operates, is political. It really affects everything. And for me, and I'm speaking specifically about Black people now, I think minimalism is definitely a tool for our liberation. I think particularly Black folks living in the U.S. and in the Western and developed nations, our oppression has sort of been built off of this system called capitalism. And I'm not going to get into this deep right here because it's something that I'm still exploring, and I think we need to explore it more as a community. But questions that keep coming up for me are, how can we change our interaction with this capitalist system? And can we truly be free if we still participate in a capitalist system? So I'm just going to throw those questions out there for y'all to marinate on y'all. But it's definitely something that has been on my mind. And I think, like I said, it's something that we need to discuss more as a community and really, really dig into. But I think with minimalism, we're heading in the right direction by sort of divesting ourselves somewhat from the capitalist system, and seeing the American dream for what it is, which is really a myth. Let me see if there's more questions. Okay, so here's a question from Silva. She asks, what's the difference between participating in minimalism temporarily for the reasons you just explained versus making it a philosophy? if you're participating in minimalism temporarily, which I would deem if you're just following a trend for the time being, the difference is you're going to end up right back at this point again at some point in your life. Like, you're going to end up cluttered again, stuck again, if you're just doing it for a temporary gain. When you're living minimalism as a lifestyle, it's a lifelong journey, and you go through different phases on this journey. For me, minimalism, I've come to understand this in the past couple of years, but it's really a spiritual journey. Like, if you're really serious about living your best life and getting rid of everything that doesn't help you do that, you have to go way, 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 way deep into yourself. Like, the physical stuff is just, the surface. As you start getting rid of the stuff, I feel like it makes room, at least mentally, for you to start questioning your motivations and your intentions. Like, minimalism has changed the way I look at the world. It's helped me be more critical in the way that I engage with the world. And it's stripping the layers away from me. I don't even know how else to describe it. Like, I feel like minimalism for me is a journey to get back to my true self. And I feel like myself, for me, and I feel like many of the people that I know, in engaging in this journey, going on this journey, we have realized that we have strayed away from our true selves. So that's what minimalism is for me. The whole purpose of it is really to get back to me. I hope that answers your question. But I think, like, if you take minimalism seriously and you're not just doing it as a trend, and you really want to lead a better life, you can't just do it temporarily, because it's going to seep into every other area of your life, and it's going to make you look critically at every single area of your life. And once you find those pockets of freedom in those different areas, you're going to want more of that. And as I said, it becomes sort of a lifelong journey. Checking for more questions. All right, Travis is hitting me hard with these questions. What advice do you have for a person that is fully committed to minimalism and fully committed to a significant other that loves material stuff? Woo! Woo woo. My significant other right now is going to be my mom. I'm going to use her as an example because that's the person that I live with. And she is not a minimalist. She's not a hoarder, but she's definitely not a minimalist. And when I first moved back, I don't think I've ever had a conversation about minimalism with my mom. I think she's read my website and things, so she kind of knows what I'm doing. But we've never had a real conversation about it. But what I do, and I can do this because this is my mom, but I gently, more like firmly, always encourage her to keep getting rid of stuff. And I question why she has all the stuff that she has, to the point that now she's actually a lot better at getting rid of stuff and not holding on to stuff for a long time. So I think over the past, I think it's been 4 years, yeah, since I've been back home, you know, I've gotten her to another point, gotten to her to a point where she's more minimalist for her, even though it's not my type of minimalism. But you have to have if you have a significant other, you have to have the conversation with them. And if you two are, you know, serious about your relationship and taking it to higher, deeper levels, you've got to understand why this person loves material things. And you also have to be able to articulate to that person why you don't find value in those things. Particularly if it's a source of, you know, tension in your relationship, you have to have the conversation. And you have to have that conversation multiple times. And if you are getting to a point with that person where they don't understand minimalism, or they don't understand why you're minimalist, and they still love their things, maybe you two aren't meant to be with each other. Maybe you're just on two different planes. But yeah, it's all about communication. Dealing with this is the basis of any relationship, and that is communication. You have to talk about what this is, what it means to you, and the vision that you see achieving with minimalism that includes that person, how they fit into that vision also. So yeah, talk to them and try to get to the root of their intentions, their motivations, their desires, and how they got to the point where materialism, you know, is a go-to thing for them. Because I guarantee you, it probably stems from something that has nothing to do with the actual things, but probably maybe the way they were raised or some type of situation. Maybe they're looking for validation, or it could be a number of things that drives them to materiality, and you can only get to that by having the conversation with them. Farai makes a good point too. She says my partner is material, and it's just easier for me to respect his space and just do me. If you can respect their space, and like I said, if their materiality does not cause any tension in your relationship, I think that's an awesome thing. And I think, you know, it is very important to respect people, respect their space, and respect their journeys, because maybe they don't want to live simply right now. Maybe what you're doing doesn't look right to them, but they may be on a journey and may arrive at that point sometime later when they are ready to embrace this journey. You know, we don't, even with our significant others, close friends and family members, we don't know everything about them. We don't know all of their internal thoughts and motivations, and everybody is on their own journey. So you do have to give them that respect and that space to be who they are and figure it out for themselves. So that was good advice for Adrian asks, do you make home visits to talk to moms? I know Adrian's mom personally, so I don't know if me talking to her is going to help her, but I love talking about minimalism. For me, it's kind of weird. I'm not religious. I don't follow any religion. But I feel like for me, minimalism has become sort of like a religion for me. It's sort of like the tool or the path that I use to define my life and live my life. So I will talk about minimalism with anybody. I won't try to convert you. And that's another thing, to go back to being in a relationship with someone who's not a minimalist. Don't try to force them to be minimalists. Even though I stay on my mom about getting rid of stuff, if she doesn't want to, she just doesn't want to. And when she complains about, having to go through all this stuff, I just remind her that it would be a lot easier if she just got rid of it. But, yeah, don't try to convert people to minimalism, especially if they're resistant to it. The best thing you can do is live by example and show them the benefits of being minimalist. But yeah, I'll come talk to your mom, your significant other. I'll talk to them all about minimalism. I have no problem doing that. What time is it? Does anybody know? Let me see if I can fit some more questions. Oh, it's been an hour already? Woo! See, I'm ready to go for another hour. Wow. Well, listen, it's been great, guys. If you do have more questions, comment them below. I'd be willing to come back again on another day and sort of do a part 2 to this Q&A discussion. I think that there's a lot more to talk about. I definitely want to talk about capitalism and liberation some more. So let me know what days are good for everyone. Like, if we try to schedule this on another day, is this a good day? Is this time good? Let us know if those things work for you. And how often you might like these talks. Because I can see myself, I could do another one next week. Maybe at the same day and time. Let me know what works for you guys. And leave your questions below for the next chat. Thank you all for joining me. I hope I answered your questions to the best of my abilities. I hope that I have piqued your interest in minimalism further. Please go visit our website, blackminimalists.net, to learn more about minimalism, the other Black minimalist content creators and brands who are in this community. And there's also a few more posts up on our site right now about minimalism for liberation. So please go visit our site. We have an ebook out right now of 14 stories from Black minimalists that we put together. Subscribe to us and you will get that ebook for free to read. And I guess that's it. I survived my first live chat. Have a good night, everyone. Peace.